Welcome to Boden. Located in the Great Taiga Forest, not far south of the Arctic Circle, Boden is a small town with a rich history and proud inhabitants.
This guide will help you blend in and pass for a local, a so-called Bodensetter. Bodensetter.
Now, even by Swedish standards, Boden is geographically remote. Being only 100 kilometers from the Arctic Circle, people used to think that polar bears roamed the streets, the Scandinavian equivalent of "here be dragons." This rumor, spurred on by misleading but very popular local postcards, is thankfully not true.
Perhaps Boden's best kept secret though are its summers. Thanks to the Gulf Stream, the locals enjoy temperatures of up to 30 degrees Celsius during the summer months. Today, for example, is a typical June day in the 20s.
This warm weather, paired with the geography's endless bright summer nights, makes for a unique experience you will definitely not find in the Bahamas. Boden is also perfect for nature lovers and adventurers. You are always within walking distance of hiking trails, mountain biking routes, ski tracks, and more, leaving you spoilt for choice in any season. Having this, as well as other necessities such as schools, jobs, healthcare services, and shops, all at your doorstep, is part of the Boden identity. They even have a word for it: närhetsliv. This means there are always things to do, giving you all the benefits of living in a small town without that boring small town feeling. But to fully explain Boden and its people, the Bodensetter, you need to understand the town's history. The early history of Boden is, well, mostly farming, until 1831, when the regional church was built here. But it was in the final years of the 1800s that things really took off. Thanks to the great Swedish railroad projects of the time, Boden became a railroad junction, connecting the Great North with all its resources to the rest of Sweden and the world. King Oscar II and the Swedish government started to realize the strategic military importance of the town, which in turn led to the colossal undertaking that would become Boden Fortress.
Even though Sweden has been at peace for over 200 years, the people of Boden are pretty serious about their military history.
And as a newcomer, it helps to nod along and pretend to be interested when someone starts talking about it. Casually trying to change the subject also works. Having said that, knowing a little bit about the town's history will certainly earn you brownie points with the locals. The fortress surrounds the entire town with 5 massive artillery forts and literally hundreds of bunkers of varying size, above and below ground. The garrison had a hydrogen gas balloon department, and a military hospital was built in town, which eventually led to Boden becoming the medical center of the region. Early on, the fortress even had an active homing pigeon system between different forts. Soon, however, Boden became a pioneer in radio technology, and to the distress of the pigeon battalion, the pigeons were phased out. We don't want to dwell on the military side of things, but it's an important part of the identity of Boden. These days, the fortress is long abandoned, but one of the forts is open to the public. Boden also has Sweden's most northerly saluting station right in the city centre, with 21-gun salute ceremonies held several times a year. Make sure you catch one, and while you're there, try expressing your interest in the military to the locals. They'll love it. One final point about the military history is that it's also made Boden a metropolis for horses. The cavalry that was once here created an infrastructure for their 4-legged steeds unlike any other, and today it is said that there are more horses in Boden than there are people. There is racing, there is equestrianism, there is western riding, there is lots of people just keeping horses because they like them. There's also Havre Magasinet, a peculiar building that was the peak of technology in the 1910s. This large warehouse was built to store oats for the horses. To keep the grain from spoiling, it was perpetually kept in motion by an enormous mechanism which moved the oats throughout the huge rooms of the building. Today, the building has been repurposed as the Regional Art Hall of Norrbotten and one of the largest spaces for contemporary art in the country. However, it hasn't all been smooth sailing for Boden and the Bodensetter. In the 90s, it was decided the hospital should be demolished and replaced with a new one, a few miles further south. It was also a time for military cutbacks throughout Sweden, which hit Boden very hard. The guns of the final active fort had one last hurrah in 1998 and then went silent. In the space of a few years, several of the town's military regiments were either moved from Boden or disbanded. A large number of jobs disappeared and the population dwindled. Houses were torn down, including a curious case with 2 houses where, for some reason, a controlled explosion was the preferred choice of demolition. Except it didn't work. And for weeks, the Leaning Towers of Boden were a landmark. For some, a symbol for the Bodensetter, a people that won't be knocked down. You see, despite all the hardships, these people have always seen opportunity. Maybe it's part of their DNA, or just a side effect of life this far north. As an example, when the Army's helicopter division moved from Boden, leaving huge empty hangars, the town put their heads together, and the area, right by the hydroelectric dam of Lur River, is now part of Boden Plug and Play, an industrial park for data centers where new green technology is being tested, and the waste heat is used to grow vegetables. Bodensetter always pride themselves in being green. It is a natural part of living this close to nature. Boden was actually a pioneer in waste sorting and recycling back in the 90s. And for years, they've run public transport in Boden on biogas, which they produce from the local food waste. The town has also bought land earmarked for green developments, which is now paving the way for the green industrial revolution. And at the heart of all these experiences and attitudes, we have this. Now this is a local, a Bodensetter. Notice the sporty outdoor clothing which serves both as casual wear and formal wear in Boden. High visibility industrial wear is also acceptable. Further notice the facial expression. There is a certain laid-back confidence, a belief that very few things are worth worrying about. There is an optimism, but also signs of a certain kind of dry, ironic, and sometimes self-deprecating sense of humour, making the English certainly feel at home here.
Can I leave now?
And for the Bodensetter, yes, life can be quite exotic. From May to July, it never goes dark outside. Sunshine fills the landscape in Boden, and combined with the fresh midnight air, this is something truly awe-inspiring and rejuvenating. If you are to pass as a local though, it is important to act as if this is something ordinary and not a natural wonder of the world. Practice by even acting a bit annoyed. Oh no, not the midnight sun again. I'm sick of it. And if you actually do have enough of it, well, there's always winter. Now, unlike the light in summer, there is never perpetual darkness. Even the darkest days do have broad daylight in Boden, but blink and you'll miss it. Now, you may think this is a downside, but it's something that has to be experienced. Silence, no noises, no light pollution. On clear nights, there is moonlight and stars and complete tranquility. This is sometimes accompanied by the elusive northern lights, or aurora borealis, resembling a great green fire in the sky. On certain tranquil days in the nature surrounding Boden, you may be greeted by the soothing sounds of machine gun fire and heavy artillery. These days the military is expanding and training more soldiers, which is a good thing for Boden, where the army equals more work and opportunity. But in general, the air of optimism in the town is palpable. Housing is being built like never before. There are companies like H2 Green Steel trying to save the world through green technology. There's a fast-growing industry for computer games and entertainment. And there's also a boom in luxury outdoor tourism. Turns out people are willing to spend a lot of money just to get a taste of what the Bodensetter already know. That this is a pretty good place to be.
Boden has always been a place where people come to work and to settle down. Today, it is a town of many cultures and people not just from Sweden, but from all over the world. So, in summary, if you just act cool, don't ask about the polar bears, and buy a warm hat, you should feel very welcome in this small but remarkable town.